There are billions of dollars of Bitcoin call and put options set to expire at the end of the year. And in this video, I'm going to go ahead and talk about why that's important for Bitcoin, what that means for the price, and my expectations for the Bitcoin price by the end of the year. But before we get to that, be sure to subscribe, be sure to hit that like button, and be sure to follow me on X and Threads. Now, I'm going to go ahead and start with just a quick recap of this quarter in the history of Bitcoin returns. So Bitcoin normally during October, this is one of the best months for price, usually going up in the average of about 21% or median of about 21%. And so far in October, we've seen kind of a very muted Bitcoin response. It's been only a paltry about like 5% or so. Now, this is very unusual for Bitcoin. And the reason for that, I think, has a lot to do with the fact that there's a lot of uncertainty regarding the U.S. election, and on top of that, the global economy, and there's a lot of things that play into that. But that's stuff I talk about, some things I can cover in another video. But the point being that October has been kind of weak for Bitcoin. However, there's something interesting going on right now that's very interesting in the options market that I want to go ahead and talk about. And this is something I think that can actually lead to some major gains by the end of the year. So, as I was saying before, we have a huge amount of Bitcoin options set to expire on the 27th of December. Now, this is normally at the end of the year, we see a large number of options that are always set to expire, but usually it's less than we're seeing right now. So this is actually some of the largest I've seen here. If you go to Deribit and you go to Deribit Bitcoin options, you can see here that it's actually at about $5.8 billion of Bitcoin options set to expire on the 27th of December. Now, a majority of these are actually call options. Some of them are put options, but the spread right now is actually a 0.43 puts to calls. And what's interesting about this is you have a max pain price sitting here at about 61,000. Now, if you believe in max pain theory, the Bitcoin price tends to gravitate towards where options holders are going to have the most pain, and this is going to be at about 61K. Now, this isn't like a perfect system. It's not a silver bullet. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't happen, but this is a good target to give us an idea of what traders are betting on by the end of the year. However, this is taking everything together, the puts and the calls together. If you just look at the calls, something else shows up that's very interesting, and that is that you see here at $80,000 a strike price for Bitcoin there's about $500 million worth of value sitting there of options. Now, not only just that, but if you take a look at the 100,000, you're sitting at about over $550 million worth of Bitcoin options. So the most bullish call options that we're seeing here are well over $1 billion in value. So what's the point of all this? The point of all this is that we're going to see massive volatility in the Bitcoin price before the end of the year. In the next 2 months, we're going to see huge swings in the Bitcoin price. Now, if you ask me personally, which one's more likely, I think that we're going to wind up seeing 80K by the end of the year. I think that's very likely, personally. And traders seem to think that this is actually a pretty good price point by the end of the year, as there are, like I said, about $500 million worth of these call options set to expire. However, if Bitcoin does not go anywhere near 80K or even 100K, then you're going to see tremendous losses in the options market. You're going to see people who are selling and losing huge amounts of money by the end of the year. And so we're going to see massive volatility either way. Now, another thing I want to talk about when it comes to Bitcoin is the simple fact that Bitcoin has been on a very nice short-term uptrend. So we've seen here Bitcoin kind of bottom out here in September. Now basically where it is sitting at about 67K, and it's well on its way to retesting the resistance here at about 70,000. And I think that we can get there and push above that level in a couple of weeks. One interesting thing that came out as I was browsing social media is the fact that Microsoft is actually making a very interesting vote when it comes to Bitcoin. And we're starting to see the acceleration of Bitcoin and adoption of Bitcoin. They had this filing that they put out, the Schedule 14A, and in the Schedule 14A, they have a list of voting items that they're going to be covering. So this is like a shareholder vote for the shareholder meeting. And you can see here This option down here below weapons development is assessment of investing in Bitcoin. Okay, so now do note the board recommends a vote against investing in Bitcoin, but the simple fact that they're even talking about it, I think, is really important, because now you're starting to see one of the most valuable companies on the planet that it's actually been brought up. Hey, maybe we should invest some money in Bitcoin in order to follow successful strategies like companies like MicroStrategy, where they've been adding Bitcoin to their balance sheet. And that has been actually very, very nice for their stock price. So Bitcoin is being thought of in the world's largest companies, and I think this is important to note that as adoption increases, you're going to see more and more and more of these companies like MicroStrategy and Tesla. They already have a large amounts of Bitcoin, but also if Microsoft actually goes and decides to buy Bitcoin, that is going to be enormous for the Bitcoin price. We've seen time and time again. If you take a look at our so value Bitcoin spot ETF tracker, we've seen huge amounts of money coming into Bitcoin spot ETFs. There's a large amount of demand coming from traditional investors and traditional financial institutions. Over the last 2 weeks, we saw here $2 billion coming in on the week of the 17th, and then the week of the 24th, we saw almost another $1 billion. So that's $3 billion over the past couple of weeks come into Bitcoin spot ETFs. This is something that is going to happen. We're going to see increased adoption. We're going to see, as new regulations roll in, we're going to see more companies that are going to want to try to add Bitcoin to their balance sheet. Hopefully, Microsoft will wind up being one of those companies as well. Not only that, we've seen balances for whale addresses hit another new all-time high. We're sitting at about 760,000 compared to where we were before. We're 717,000 Bitcoin balance. Okay, so they're actually stacking up here. Bitcoin balances for whale addresses last active in the 24 hours, we've seen a large increase. Not to mention that, but if you go ahead and take a look at the exchange reserve, you can see yet again it continues to plummet. Look how huge the drop is here from October 18th down to October 20th. Massive drop here. And if you back this out and look at the all-time, you can see just how in demand Bitcoin is right now and how very little supply is currently on the market. So if you guys are interested in that, I had a whole video about Bitcoin demand versus supply and why that's another catalyst that could be pushing the Bitcoin price much higher. Definitely recommend you guys check that video out. Another major reason why we could see volatility coming through is the start of earnings season for traditional financial companies and big tech companies. That's going to be happening this week. Companies like Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Meta, Alphabet are going to be reporting the week upcoming here, starting the week of the 28th. So look out for these. They will move Bitcoin one way or another, either because they own Bitcoin, they're interested in owning Bitcoin, or because of the correlation between Bitcoin and the NASDAQ we've seen recently. So just know that this is going to happen. We're going to see huge volatility. Not to mention that, but if you take a look at the economic reports for the week, we also have GDP and PCE and core PCE as well next week. So prepare yourselves. Next week, things are going to be crazy. But this also has the knock-on effect that we could see Bitcoin push above that 70K region and finally make a new all-time high. So stay tuned. If you guys are interested in seeing any of my videos, make sure you subscribe. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys are thinking about this market. If this is something that interests you, if you want to see more options, if you want to see more catalysts or bullishness or bearishness, basically whatever you guys want to see, let me know. Leave a comment below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.